to farmer-centred deadlock. Crucial Kisan government meet shortly. Farm Neta's video triggers big row. Cut Modi graph comment explodes.
मोदी ਦਾ ਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਬਹੁਤ ਮੰਦਰ ਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਚੜ ਗਿਆ ਉਹ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਉਹ ਇਹਦਾ ਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਡਾਊਨ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੌਕਾ ਬੜਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਹੈ ਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਉਹਦਾ ਬੜਾ ਉੱਚਾ ਹੈ ਦਿਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਥੋੜੇ ਕੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਇਹਦਾ ਡਾਊਨ ਕਰਨਾ
Farm stir or Modi Hatao Andolan. Top focus on 5 Live.
Thanks for staying with the news here on India Today. It's a huge news today in the country. Thanks for being with me. I'm Shiv. This is 5 Live. Let's get you straight first, as always, to the headlines. Bengal women narrate horrifying rape ordeals in their allegations, but Mamata doubts them, calls rape victims and survivors and accusers BJP agents. BJP stages big protest, slams the West Bengal chief minister. Farm Neta's controversial comment caught on camera, says Modi's graph needs to be cut. And all along we thought this was a non-political protest to make demands for the welfare of farmers. Apparently not. Well, the farmers meanwhile are intensifying their stir, block trains across Punjab. They're firm on the MSP legal guarantee. Round 3 of government-farmer talks to begin shortly. Will the deadlock end? Big political quake before the 2024 election. Former J&K Chief Minister Farooq hints at joining NDA in the future, says cannot rule out the possibility, announces his party will go solo in the 2024 election. Big blow to the centre. Supreme Court strikes down the electoral bond scheme, calls it unconstitutional, says poll bond scheme violates right to information and fundamental rights of voters. Opposition hails the verdict. I have a full explainer of this game-changing verdict at 5:30. Days after 8 Navy veterans were freed, Modi meets Emir of Qatar, holds bilateral meet. Prime Minister Modi accorded ceremonial welcome during Qatar visit. A crucial third meeting between the Modi government and the farmer unions holding their Delhi Chalo protest is to begin very shortly in Chandigarh. This is the third round of talks after the first 2 rounds failed to break any deadlock. Remember, the MSP, the minimum support price guarantee, the legal guarantee demand continues to be the sticking point, the big flashpoint and the roadblock before any possible breakthrough. Can the farmers and the Modi government reach some kind of a breakthrough this time? We'll have to wait and see. Both sides are holding firm. Jagjit Singh Dalewal and Jarnail Singh are among the top farmer union leaders who've arrived at the Mahatma Gandhi State Institute of Public Administration for their meeting with Agriculture Minister in the Modi government Arjun Munda, Nityanand Rai and Union Minister Piyush Goyal. So 3 ministers have been sent to confer with the farmers as part of this third round of talks. I want to bring in India Today's reporters who've been tracking all aspects of the farmer protest, which is now on day 3. Milan Sharma is at the Singhu border. Kamaljeet Sandhu is in Chandigarh. Kamal, I'll come to you first. Third round of talks. Both parties have already arrived for the discussions. All eyes will be on whether any kind of breakthrough is even possible. What are you sensing? What are you hearing? Because from whatever is emerging from both sides, there doesn't appear to be a breakthrough in sight, Kamal.
Well, absolutely, Shiv. The talks are very precariously placed. Now, the tensions have been there have been tensions in Shambhu border, in Kanori border, and behind me is what you can see is an extra deployment which is being done, and that is also of Chandigarh police. So besides that, it's also, if we can just show you the camera, there's also the BSF deployment or the paramilitary deployment which is currently being done. So very clearly, security is being beefed up here. But what is important and significant is what happens within the table, across the table, and this is where can there be any out-of-the-box thinking. Now remember, the farmers have been very adamant as far as legislation on MSP, C2 plus 50% guarantee formula, implementation of Swaminathan report. They are also talking about how there have to be at least 15 to 16 demands. Several of these demands have been taken and into consideration. The government has been talking about a middle path, but perhaps the Punjab-based farmers are not really willing. But what they're doing is, because of the action of Haryana police at the borders, the using of tear gas as well as the drones, has actually put several other farmer leaders in solidarity. And today also, when they're talking about taking the march Chalo Delhi, which was to happen on the 13th, now there seems to be a standoff between the forces as well as the farmers right there in Shambu border. And this is where the government is trying its best to stall them there, while the farmers are adamant they want to move ahead, considering that they want the government to cave into their demands. Now, can the MSP happen? The government took out a full-page ad in several papers today saying at least 22 such crops the MSP has been given. Now, thereafter, the farmers have reverted back saying that's actually only on paper. Perhaps that's only paddy and wheat where there is the MSP being given to both Punjab and Haryana farmers. So each side seems to be rather adamant. Now, if there has to be a middle path of sorts, there has to be some sort of person. One party has to blink first. And remember, with the government now opening up the third round of talks, and let me tell you, the Punjab government and officials played an important part to bring these farmers once again back to the table. The point is, nothing much really changes because the demands are the same, the leaders are the same, and so are the union ministers. So what really can be the breakthrough point is the big question. Meanwhile, it does seem, whether it's Rakesh Tiketh or for that matter, the BKU or the others who are joining in on solidarity on days, but there is a lot of pressure coming in from small farmer units to their leaders that they should join in support of these particular farmers, and eventually that could lead to a bigger problem. But meanwhile, can there be a solution? The meeting today, which will go on till perhaps last time it went around till 12 o'clock at night, but this time around there has to be some sort of mindset, and this is where there would be some sort of concession from each side before they can arrive at a conclusion.
Okay, Kamal, stay with me. You know that elusive compromise formula doesn't appear to be anywhere in sight, because you know what is that breakthrough point, as Kamal currently put it. Nobody really knows except perhaps the farmer side and the three ministers who are meeting with them. Milan, you've been speaking to many of those farmer leaders as well from all the locations that you've been reporting from. Do they give you a sense that they're willing to negotiate on the MSP legal guarantee demand at all?
Well, Shiv, I'll take on from where Kamaljeet just left. You know, she was talking about the pressure that has been built on the other farmer unions, looking at the way this protest is currently, held up at the Shambu border. And other farmers are also facing heat from their particular, organizations. And you know, we just heard that Chaduni from Bharatiya Kisan Union is also extending a support. They are also going to do a tractor march in Haryana. The main contention was the last time farmers from Haryana as well as Punjab had joined into the march, and then obviously Uttar Pradesh farmers had also joined into the protest. And now what is happening is, we aren't hearing from either Rakesh Tiketh faction or the other Haryana Kisan factions. Only BKU Chaduni, another faction from Punjab, has said that they will extend the support, but they are not saying that they will march from Shambu or they will come to Delhi Cooch, and that is something that other farmer organizations are not willing to do yet. But in their own way, they are trying to extend this support. So pressure building is something that the farmers are still looking at ahead of the meeting. Today, as you saw, rail roko was done in Punjab. That was another pressure building tactic from the farmers so that the government relents to their demands. But I don't see the government relenting pointing on one side to each and everything that they are pointing out. For example, they want India to be out of the World Trade Organization, and that happens to be an international, diplomatic policy which India cannot look at doing at all. So that is something that there will be no consensus on. Apart from the MSP law, which is going to be a long-standing and very hard-sold demand, it's going to be interesting to see whether there is any middle path that can be carved out today, so that the protesters stay at Shambhu or perhaps look at going back.
So today is day 3 of the Delhi Chalo Andolan. The blockades are still out there. The farmers have not reached Delhi, but it is not a good situation on those borders, as Kamal and Milan and our rest of our reporters have been, telling us. And once this meeting gets over, we will have to crucially see whether there has been even slightly some kind of forward movement. Stay with me, Kamal and Milan. India Today's team of reporters, including Kamaljeet and Milan, are on the ground, as you can see, providing all of those updates related to the Farmer Andolan 2.0. Take a look at these reports, the latest ones that they've sent us today, that give you a sense of what's happening on the ground.
देखिए यहाँ पे सिंगू बॉर्डर पे ड्रिल चल रही है, फुल ड्रेस रिहर्सल अगर आप कहें तो गलत नहीं होगा। सबसे आगे आप देख सकते हैं पैरा फोर्सेस की तैनाती है और उनके हाथ में है टीयर गैस शेल के गन्स, और साथ ही साथ बैकअप में आपको दिखाई देगा बाकी जो उनके सपोर्ट सिस्टम है, टीयर गैस शेल्स के पैकेट्स के साथ वो तमाम जवान दिखाई देंगे। पहली लाइन में, पहली कतार में आपको महिला जवान भी दिखाई देंगी जो धीरे धीरे बैरिकेड्स की तरफ बढ़ रही हैं, जो कंक्रीट की दीवारें बनाई गई हैं। दिल्ली पुलिस के जो जवान हैं उनके हाथों में आपको लाठियां दिखाई देंगी। ये पिछली बार हमने देखा था कि घोड़े भी इस्तेमाल हुए थे प्रोटेस्ट में, और निहंग भी आए थे तो उनके हाथों में तलवार थे, तो उसको लेकर अलग तरह से लोहे के स्टिक्स भी मंगाए गए हैं इस बार। और ऊपर अगर आप फ्लाईओवर को देखेंगे तो फ्लाईओवर में पूरी तैनाती आपको रैपिड एक्शन फोर्स के जवान की दिख रही है।
इस वक्त मैं पंजाब के राजपुरा रेलवे स्टेशन पर मौजूद हूं और रेलवे ट्रैक पर इस वक्त ट्रेन नहीं दौड़ रही है, बल्कि जो किसान है वो यहाँ पर आकर बैठ गए हैं। जिस तरह से शंभू बॉर्डर पर जो किसान है वो बैठे हैं, उन पर रह रहकर आंसू गैस के गोले छोड़े गए। आरोप है कि वहां पर लाठीचार्ज भी कुछ बॉर्डर पर हुआ, जिंद बॉर्डर पर। उसके सॉलिडेरिटी में जो सबसे बड़ा किसान संगठन है बीक्यू उग्रहा, उसने रेल रोको अभियान का ऐलान किया था कल और आज। इसी के तहत ये जो तमाम किसान है, जरा अनिल तस्वीरें दिखाइए, ये रेलवे ट्रैक है और इसी रेलवे ट्रैक पर जो तमाम किसान हैं वो यहाँ पर बैठ गए हैं। सामने की तरफ से जो ट्रेन आती है पंजाब की तरफ से, वो दिल्ली की तरफ जाती है, यानी 4 घंटे तक जो पूरा रेल यातायात है वो बाधित रहेगा। और इसी तरीके से चाहे वो ट्रेन रेल की पटरी हो, प्लेटफॉर्म हो, चारों तरफ आपको किसान दिखाई देंगे। साथ में एहतियात के तौर पर पंजाब पुलिस भी यहाँ पर पहुंच गई है और उसके अलावा जो तमाम रेलवे के अधिकारी हैं वो भी यहाँ पर मौजूद है। तो कुल मिलाकर 4 घंटे तक पंजाब के अलग अलग इलाकों में इसी तरीके से जो रेल की पटरी है उस पर किसान बैठे रहेंगे।
More action happening here on ground. We are at the Chandigarh-Ambala highway, and behind me is what you see is the police bandobast. But right, if we just turn around the cameras, what we'll show you is the toll plaza here, an arterial one, is being made toll-free, and on Dharna are farmers. And remember, this is a united farmers, and they have joined in hands, especially in solidarity in terms of what has happened to the SKM non-political and Kisan Mazdoor Morcha. So all of them are sitting out here. But let me tell you that when it comes to having a movement, remember, more farmers are now joining hands. There is going to be a Mahapanchayat where they will decide whether they want to actually join hands in a larger sense. So today there is a meeting in the evening where the farmer unions are meeting the union ministers. But clearly this is a pressure tactics, and after all what has happened in the past 48 hours, where there seems to be utilization of drones, there has also been tear gassing, and excessive use of force is what farmers are alleging, and that is what has resulted in angry reactions coming in from the other farmer unions. But clearly today is Rail Roko, and also the toll plazas being made free out here. And look at the number of tractors now. So these tractors are all here. So we do expect that once there is a solution, perhaps there could be a way out. But meanwhile, it seems that there is an escalation as far as the mood is concerned, and perhaps this is where pressure tactics is coming in, whether it's by use of force or by the farmers when they sit down on dharna like this and saying they're going to have a vast and perhaps a lot more joining in, but that call is going to be taken in the next few days, and obviously everybody watching out for the meeting today in the evening. And perhaps, is it going to be the middle path, or will there be any solution coming in? Remember, 8th and 12th, there were two set of meetings, and today on the 15th, there will be another set of meetings. And clearly, when we talk about tractors, we're talking about all these farmers doing a show of strength. This is where it's obviously they're trying to put together that particular impact, that they're all together in this one, be it SKM, non-political, or the Kisan Mazdoor Morcha. For now, it does seem that they're putting their hand and joining their hands together for this one purpose. With camera person Chandi Ram, this is Kamaljeet Sandhu at Chandigarh Ambala Toll Plaza for India Today.
It's day 3 of farmers' protest, and right now I'm at Delhi-Haryana border near Tikri, and elaborate security arrangements have been made here by administration and by the government here. You can see paramilitary forces Jawan over here, deployed over here, and you can see them in full protective gears. They are armed with stakes. They are also possessing tear gas ammunitions with them. And as you can see on this side, concrete slabs have been placed in over here, and there are barbed wire. Behind them you can see canters have been placed in order to stop agitating farmers from entering into the national capital. On this side you can see there are multiple barricades that have been placed in by police to ensure that the agitating farmers don't get to enter into the national capital, and therefore there are ample amount of security personnel on ground zero. This is the road that actually connects Delhi with Haryana's Bahadurgarh, and therefore it is one of the main border checkpoints or entry points into the national capital, and therefore it has been completely sealed. No traffic is allowed at this point of time. However, a very limited amount of people are still coming over here. Therefore, a small passage has been given for common public to come, just to minimize their inconvenience. And people, and at this point of time, people movement is allowed. You can see common people coming in here, but it's day 3, and therefore we've been informed that farmers are not in aggressive mood today. They are waiting for the ongoing talks to conclude. We've been informed that around 5 p.m. today in Chandigarh, farmers, leaders and government ministers are going to hold talks. The government has deployed 3 senior ministers, namely Mr. Piyush Goyal, Arjun Munda and Nityanand Rai, to mitigate the situation, to end this stalemate. And we've been informed that the government has already made it very clear that they're ready to walk that extra mile. But farmers must also understand the fiscal realities of their demands. At Tikri border with Amit Badwar, this is Rahul Gautam reporting for India Today.
Now remember, when the Farmer Andolan 2.0 had started, it was supposed to be about the welfare of farmers, making demands, no matter what you think about those demands, for the rights of farmers. That was what it was projected as. That was what it was structured as. The farmer leaders were clear that there was nothing political about it. They said that they would not welcome politicians and that this had nothing to do with politics, even though the elections were coming up. Why not use the pressure of elections to create pressure and leverage on the government, which is totally justified and reasonable. Except now that this man you see in the green turban, his name is Jagjit Singh Dhaliwal. He's one of the 2 big farm leaders who are part of the negotiations with the government. He, in fact, is part of the 3rd round of talks that's taking place today as well. Amidst this deadlock, farmer leader Jagjit Singh Dhaliwal has been caught on camera making a statement that seems to turn this Andolan on its head, according to its critics. The BJP and the BJP supporters say that the words of this man have completely exposed the true intentions and the true masterminds behind Farmer Andolan 2.0. Because when you listen to what this man has been caught on camera saying, you will probably wonder as well whether this entire Andolan, this entire Delhi Chalo March is actually apolitical and whether it is only about the farmers. You're about to hear this man talking about how Modi's graph needs to be brought down and that his popularity is soaring after the Ram Mandir consecration and that there are only a few weeks left for the elections and therefore his popularity needs to be brought down. What business does a farm union leader leading an Andolan for the welfare of farmers, demanding MSP as a legal guarantee by the government, what business does he have or worry about the graph of the Prime Minister at a time when he insists there's nothing political about it? You decide after watching this report.
मोदी दा ग्राफ बहुत मंदर दे करके ऊपर चढ़ गया। वो नुकसान वो इहदा ग्राफ डाउन किवें आ सकदा है?
A shocking viral video of the most prominent face of the farm stir against popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Jagjit Dallewal, the chief of BKU Ekta, the steering force behind the agitation, expressing his worry over rising popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, especially after Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha. In the video, Dallewal is heard promising to cut Modi down to size, adding that the farm stir presents a golden opportunity to cut Modi's soaring graph.
मोदी दा ग्राफ बहुत मंदर दे करके ऊपर चढ़ गया। वो नुकसान वो इहदा ग्राफ डाउन किवें आ सकदा है? मैं बहुत बारी ਜਦੋਂ मैं ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਿਆਰੀਆਂ ਕਰਾਉਂਦਾ ਫਿਰਦਾ ਸੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਮੌਕਾ ਬੜਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਉਹਦਾ ਬੜਾ ਉੱਚਾ ਚੜਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਦਿਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਆ ਕੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗ੍ਰਾਫ ਇਹਦਾ ਡਾਊਨ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ?
The video was picked up by top advisor to government Kanchan Gupta and prominent BJP leaders, who called the stir a political conspiracy against jealous opponent of the Prime Minister, timed with upcoming elections.
देखते क्या सीधा सीधा पॉलिटिकल एक स्टेटमेंट है ये, और पॉलिटिकल स्टेट में इस प्रकार से कोई एक प्रदर्शन करके और वो भी एक इस प्रकार का एक खतरनाक दृश्य बना करके उस प्रदर्शन करने से क्या जनता मोदी से दूर हट जाएगी? बल्कि ये तो उसमें और बढ़ा रहे हैं। देखा जाए तो आज आम जनता में ये मैसेज जा रहा है कि ये तरीका ठीक नहीं, लोकतांत्रिक तरीका नहीं है। लोकतांत्रिक तरीके को हर कोई पसंद करता है।
The Congress, which has backed the farm stir, however, denied any political affiliations to the protesters.
Agenda of farmers' agitation is an agenda for life of this nation. It's an agenda of 72 crore farmers and farm laborers. This agenda is not governed by politics. This agenda is also not governed by who will be in power. Question is, will India live? Will India survive? Can India survive without its 72 crore farmers and farm laborers?
The farm stir is officially aimed at ensuring fair MSP law and benefits for farmers. But in reality, is it just another Modi Hatao Andolan? Bureau Report, India Today.
So the cut Modi graph is the big breaking story when one of the principal leaders of the farm agitation reveals, perhaps accidentally, that the intention of the Andolan is about cutting Modi's popularity just weeks before the election. It makes you wonder whether they're willing to negotiate on anything else at all. Here's Ravi Shankar Prasad of the BJP reacting.
देखिए किसने क्या कहा है, इस पर तो कोई हम टिप्पणी नहीं करेंगे। मैंने भी वो वीडियो देखा है, किसी चैनल पर आप लोग चला भी रहे हैं। शाम में वार्ता होने वाली है मंत्रियों की, हमारी शुभकामनाएं वार्ता सफल हो जाए। लेकिन हमारे प्रधानमंत्री का ग्राफ तो ऐसे ही बहुत बड़ा है, आज से नहीं बहुत दिनों से है। वो दुनिया के नेता हैं। अभी क्या हुआ है अबू धाबी में और यूएई में आप देख के आ रहे हैं। अभी क्या हुआ है कि कतर में जो हमारे नेवी के लोग फांसी के फंदे से झूलने वाले थे, कितने सम्मान से वापस आ गए। तो क्या देश और क्या विदेश, प्रधानमंत्री का ग्राफ इसलिए है उनकी ईमानदारी, उनके काम और भारत की 40 करोड़ जनता के आशीर्वाद से।
Gaurav Sawant is with me live on this story. He's also been looking at this developing story. Gaurav, this changes things, in a very dramatic way. There can be no exaggerating it. If this was just one of the protesters, perhaps it could be explained or understood. Everyone has the right to political opinions. But the principal negotiator, Jagjit Singh Dhaliwal, who is now sitting and negotiating with the government, has been caught on camera saying cut Modi's popularity, उसको ग्राफ को गिराना है, बहुत कम समय है इलेक्शंस के लिए, राम मंदिर के बाद, things are soaring for Prime Minister Modi and he should be cut down. What do you make of that?
Shiv, it's very curious. One, this remark actually exposes, as some argue, that the true face of this protest. The protest earlier, it had a wider support, it had larger number of people. Here, from multiple states. There are two aspects here. One, the number of states, the farmers from the number of states who are actually involved in this. And two, the statements that's made by Dhaliwal. In fact, he's currently, even as you and I speak, a part of that negotiating team with the 3 union ministers in Chandigarh. So does this expose what the true motive was? The true motive was actually to reduce the popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi or cut him to size, especially after the Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha at Ayodhya, and what's happening, as Ravi Shankar Prasad puts it, in Qatar and in the United Arab Emirates. The Mandir and the fact that the 7 of our 8 former Indian Navy personnel are back. Was this then politically motivated to bring down the government, tarnish the image of the government, specifically the Prime Minister, ahead of elections 2024? Are these negotiations then just a sham? Whatever happens, whatever transpires, it would be rejected and the protests would continue. Some argue that this was orchestrated, planned, supported by some political parties. Others may jump into it depending on the kind of support farmers are able to gather from other states. Is it restricted just to a few groups in Punjab, perhaps some in Haryana, but not in Uttar Pradesh, not in Rajasthan, not in other parts of the country? So that remains to be seen, what happens in this meeting today and in the days ahead. Is the true motive only to tarnish the image of the Prime Minister?
So is this a regime change operation, perhaps funded internally and externally? Could that be what this is? Has Dhaliwal let the cat out of the bag of what the true face and the true intent of the Andolan is? Is the fact that this MSP legal demand is so far-fetched and so unviable, and that itself is an indicator that the true intent is not really about farmer welfare, because even these farm leaders, perhaps realize how outwardly and otherworldly the demand for an MSP legal guarantee is, and therefore the true intent is actually overtly political to damage Modi and the BJP before the election. Well, we didn't say it. It was Jagjit Singh Dhaliwal who said it, and we'll have to wait and see what the fallout of that is actually going to be. Gaurav, thanks very much for that. Now remember, the politics of the farmer Andolan, as triggered now by Dhaliwal, are completely separate from the demands being made by farmers. Those require a real and fact-based debate. Now listen into agricultural expert and member of ICRIER, Dr. Ashok Gulati. Now his comment on India Today's News Today broadcast last evening has gone viral on social media as one of the most sober, unemotional, factual and crisp explainers over why what the farmer leaders are demanding in terms of an MSP law is not only fiscally unfeasible, but potentially anti-farmer. Listen very carefully to this.
You have been a supporter of not having a minimum income guarantee, and you and others have been writing that you believe that such a legal guarantee of a minimum support price would be financially unviable, is a bad idea, would end up in fiscal instability. On what basis are you arguing this? Why do you believe that a minimum support price would lead to fiscal chaos and financial instability if we gave it to the farmers of the country?
Let me further add that it can be anti-farmer. How? Normally the prices are decided by demand and supply. And if the MSP is made legal, the production, assume, of a particular commodity is 100, but the demand is 70, then what will happen? Nobody will touch the remaining 30. It will stay with the farmers. What will you do? What can they do? Because if I buy at a price lower than MSP, I may be put behind the bars if it is legal, right? So the issue is a simple understanding of a 9th grader who has studied demand and supply. When the prices are low, demand is high. When the prices are high, demand is low. And market has to clear. And if you don't understand this ABC, of basic economics, then I'm sorry. Demanding legal and implementing that all over the country for 23 commodities, to me, it's impossible.
But with due regard, Dr. Gulati, you would then end up leaving the farmers to the vagaries of the market and the monsoon. Farmers want some sense of reassurance, some kind of income security given to them, given the vagaries of monsoon and the market process. If sugar, for example, can have remunerative prices that governments decide, why can't farmers across these 23 crops also get a minimum support price? Why the hesitation?
Let me put the facts on the table. These 23 commodities constitute only 28% of the agriculture produce. That segment of agriculture which is flying high, fastest rate of growth, 8 to 9% per annum, is poultry. Is there an MSP for poultry products, eggs or poultry meat? Then is fishery, 7 to 8% rate of growth per annum for the last 10-15 years. Is there MSP? Milk, which is bigger than rice, wheat, pulses, sugarcane, all put together. Is there an MSP? It is growing between 5 to 6% per annum. 72% of agriculture is driven by market prices, not by MSP. Within MSP of 23 crops, real implementation of MSP is only in wheat and rice primarily, and that too in 5-6 states. You go to Bihar, for the last 50 years, their prices of paddy are 15 to 25% lower than MSP. So why don't you go and procure there? Now your other question, which is a concern, and I'm also concerned. Farmer faces two types of risks: nature's risk and market risk. For the nature's risk, there is a crop insurance. If you want to take advantage of that, but the companies that will do insurance, they are not doing charities. You have to pay premium, highly subsidized by the government, and they feel, oh, insurance companies are making money. Well, they have to make money if they have to be in business, but you and me insure our cars. Not that every day it will meet an accident, but whenever it meets, then you get the compensation for that. So that's how insurance operates. Same thing in case of prices. You have suspended the futures, which is one way to look at what the prices should be. You have banned exports. You have put stocking limits on the traders. You have unloaded things at a price lower than the economic cost, pushing the market prices to the MSP. So these are the problems. You have to get the markets right. You can't become a centralized economy where each and every commodity, there are more than 100 commodities. Why they should not get an MSP? Tell me that.
And there's been a big setback once again for NCP. Sharad Pawar faction leader Sharad Pawar, the Maharashtra Assembly Speaker, has ruled unsurprisingly in favor of Ajit Pawar, the man who rebelled and split the party. The Maharashtra Speaker says the Ajit Pawar faction is the real NCP. The Maharashtra Speaker says Ajit Pawar MLAs cannot be disqualified. So another battle has been lost between the NCP Sharad Pawar and the Ajit Pawar faction, which was recently bestowed with sanctity by the Election Commission as well. So the Maharashtra Speaker saying that Ajit Pawar's MLAs cannot be disqualified and that the Ajit Pawar faction is the real NCP, echoing what the Election Commission had said just a few days ago.
Supreme blow to centre in top court.
The ability of a company to influence the electoral process through political contributions is much higher when compared to that of an individual.
Illegal poll bond scheme scrapped. Poll bonds fail probity Agni Pariksha. Opposition hails historic justice.
आप सार्वजनिक करिए, पूरी जानकारी करिए कि 5200 करोड़ किसने दिया भारतीय जनता पार्टी को, उसकी एवज में उन कंपनीज को भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार ने क्या उपकार किए उन कंपनीज पर.
Will this bring Swachh Chunav?
Electoral bonds are unconstitutional, violative of fundamental rights and voters' right to information, and they are hereby therefore scrapped. The scathing ruling by India's top court, the Supreme Court today, brings to an end a scheme for political funding that has been controversial and contested since its inception in 2018. In effect, today's verdict presents a major blow to the BJP, since it was the BJP government that pushed this scheme, argued strenuously to defend it, in favor of it, and then finally implemented it. First, let me tell you, viewer, how electoral bonds actually work or worked, since they've now been scrapped by the Supreme Court. Now, electoral bonds are an instrument through which anyone can donate money to political parties. These bonds are sold in multiples of 1,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, and 1 crore rupees. Now, these bonds can be purchased by any Indian citizen or entities incorporated in India, that is, corporate entities. The donor can purchase these bonds from authorized branches of the State Bank of India by paying the amount through a check or digitally, but not cash. Now, this purchased electoral bond can be given to the political party of their choice. The party then has a 15-day window to encash these bonds to fund their electoral expenses. Now, here's the clincher. Electoral bonds are completely anonymous. The bond does not carry the name of the buyer. The next question, who benefited the most from these electoral bonds between 2018 and now? Now, studies suggest that the ruling party, whosoever it might be, benefits the maximum from donations through electoral bonds because, well, they're in power and donors want to support the party that's in the throne. Of the 9,208 crore rupees in electoral bonds sold between 2018, the inception, and 2022, the BJP got over half, over 50%, 5,271 crore, followed far behind by the Congress at 952 crore, the Trinamool at 767 crore, and the Biju Janata Dal at 622 crore. So the BJP towers and was by far the biggest beneficiary of this scheme. Now comes the third question. How does the Supreme Court verdict impact what happens in the 2024 election campaign? Now, this is where things get really interesting, viewer. The Supreme Court has ordered that donor data, those who've bought these bonds and given them to political parties, must now be revealed by the State Bank of India and published by the Election Commission within the next 3 weeks. Once the data on these donations and the donors is published by the Election Commission, voters will finally know who has funded the political parties they are keen on voting for. Details of the donors, especially corporate donors, will be the first step towards determining whether corporate interests were kept above public interest in the formation of government policies as a quid pro quo. This is something that is constantly alleged of governments, especially the current one. Now, setting aside what parties have amassed so far, and I've shown you those numbers from electoral bonds, the Supreme Court crackdown today theoretically puts all parties on equal footing for the 2024 polls, with no party getting any further benefit from electoral bond scheme but that doesn't account for how much these parties have already amassed. And we've just shown you how the BJP has benefited from this scheme far more than any other by virtue of being the party in power. Now, the Chief Justice of India had observed during his verdict today that the scheme does not provide a level playing field for all political parties. Let's be clear about one thing, viewer. Today's verdict, no matter which way the BJP slices it, is an indictment of a BJP-pushed scheme for political funding. It's been controversial right from the start on the issue of transparency. There can be no two ways about that. While it is true that parties other than the BJP, like we just showed you, have benefited from electoral bonds to the tune of, more than 1,000 crores, including the Congress and the Trinamool, it is still nowhere close to how much the BJP has benefited from the inflow. Interestingly, other than the CPM, no other party took a principled or official call to refuse funds flowing into their parties via electoral bonds, even though they were against it and constantly questioned it. That raises questions about why they didn't. Some may see this as hypocrisy in light of parties like the Congress now claiming victory and Rahul Gandhi expressing principled victory over this verdict. But it is also true, viewer, that it is a Congress member who is one of the petitioners in the electoral bonds case that has seen a victory for them in the Supreme Court today. Never forget that. Now, with the scheme now scrapped, the question is, will donor data provide an explosive new chapter in transparency in what drives our political parties? In 3 weeks, we could actually know. Now I want to show you another number that shows you about undisclosed income in the coffers of political parties in light of what we've just heard from the Supreme Court and electoral bonds. Now, I'll take you through just some of the major parties, and this is financial year 21-22. The total income of the BJP, 1,917.12 crores. Of that, income from undisclosed sources accounts for 60.56%, which sounds like a lot, except if you compare it with the Trinamool, which had a total of 545.74 crores of income in that same period, the undisclosed income was accounting for 96.77%, which is staggeringly high. When you look at the Congress party's figures of that same financial year, 541.27 crore was the income, of which 71.84% came from undisclosed sources. The CPM had an income of 162.23 crores, in the same period. This is the only party, remember, that has refused any funding via electoral bonds. But even the CPM had 48.48% of its income coming in from undisclosed sources. NCP of Sharad Pawar, 75.84 crores of income, out of which 20.41 was from undisclosed sources. So that's just to give you a sense of what the transparency matrix currently looks like. I want to go across to India Today's legal eagle, Nalini, who has personally helped us and helped me understand this story as well. Nalini, the big question now is, we've put together and set out what this means, what the verdict has said, how it could impact the election going forward. I want to ask you, in 3 weeks from now, the donor data, Nalini, has to be published by the Election Commission. How is that going to work, and what could be the result of that? That opens many, many cans of worms.
Well, absolutely, Shiv, and it's a big win not just for the Indian democracy, but also for the transparency of free and fair election processes. Yeah. Because the Supreme Court could have stopped at the fact that SBI should not issue any further electoral bonds. But not only have they done that, they've also asked for all of the details of the donations that have been received so far to be put up on the Election Commission website, so that the voter, who is at the end of the day the deciding factor on who rules the country, should have a right to know where this political funding is coming from. And the idea behind this by the Supreme Court has been simple, that in a democracy, elections should be absolutely free and fair without any sort of influence on the ruling party or the party that is supposed to come in power. The manner in which this is now going to impact the 2024 polls, like you correctly pointed out, is that the voter is going to know who has donated how much amount to each political party. And not just that, if there are corporate entities, which there are several corporate entities that have donated to political parties, if there are any foreign entities that have a stake in an Indian-owned company that have donated to these political parties, then to what extent corporate interest has overridden the public interest by the ruling party. So lots to watch out for in the days leading up to the 2024 polls. And on the 13th of March, once this data is revealed, it's going to be absolutely groundbreaking to see who has donated how much to each political party.
So are these going to be nervous moments for those big, big honcho donors then, Nalini? Because now it's out of their control. Their names will now be revealed in those lists.
Well, absolutely, Shiv, and it remains to be seen how the government deals with this, as to whether or not they'll challenge this by way of a review petition. Will they try and seek more time from the Supreme Court to put out this data? Because getting this data out in March, just ahead of the 2024 polls, and in case it's revealed that this funding either came from any foreign entities that have directly impacted the government policies, or whether there's been any quid pro quo, is directly going to impact who comes into power back in 2024.
And we'll be reporting that in a big way here on India Today. Thanks very much, Nalini, for helping us put this big story into perspective for our viewers all across the country and the world. That's it on 5 Live. All the big stories as always here on India Today.